right, welcome on in to another episode of Oh So Curious. It's gonna be a fun one. If you're watching live, this is past the midnight hour on the East Coast, so it's a late one, but we are so glad that you're here with us. I'm gonna be running this one solo because John had to head to bed because he ran most of DCU Daily by himself. So actually, that's me right here. There we go. Daniel, not John. I'm Daniel. Welcome to the show. If you're new, of course, hit the like button. We're doing this 5 days a week. DCU Daily already happened. Hearless Tuesday happened, and now that we are past the midnight hour, here we are with Those So Curious because there's so much going on in the world of movies this week that we got to talk about it all. And so to do that, I'm here with you. Stacy's in the live chat. Monique is here. Honka is, Caleb is here saying honka dan, I don't know. Well, as we usually do on the OSA Curious Show, we're going to kick things off with the news. We've got a packed one, Avengers Doomsday. We're going to talk a little bit about Supergirl. We got to talk about Stranger Things, the Season 5, Volume 2. Of course, there's the box office update. We got to talk about what Zootopia 2 did this past weekend before Avatar comes in and sweeps everything out of the way. And of course, winds of change in Hollywood are anew, of course, not only because of the Warner Bros. Discovery sale, but also because of what's going on with everything to do with AI, Disney's deal with the OpenAI. We'll talk about that, what that means. Vin Diesel wrote a part for Cristiano Ronaldo in the next Fast movie. What the hell is that all about? Of course, there is that Gaston spin-off from Disney that's in the works, Fallout Season 2, and so much more. So to do that and talk about it on all the more topics beyond it, you guys watching live, you'll get into your chat questions. Let's hit that news intro and get the show started.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always number two.
Right, Mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne. I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see chords.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right, okay, let's get into it. We've got some of you guys in the live chat already. Yes, we will be talking about a Gaston spin-off, Enterprising. It's actually been a thing for a while. I'm surprised it didn't get going any sooner. Yeah, Luke Evans he's a looker. Although we'll get into whether he's actually coming back for this one or not. Sociopath, that's one way of looking at it. But Enterprising saying hello to everybody else. Of course, I mentioned already. We've got Caleb in the chat. You got Eric watching, Monique here, Stacy as well. So if you are watching live, hit the like button. If you're watching after we're live, still hit the like button. We appreciate it. Of course, it's going to be a fun one. And yeah, we get to talk about the latest from the world of Hollywood, including, as we usually do on the first set of shows of the week. We didn't have a show on Monday, so today we're going to catch up on the weekend box office. So let's do that right now, right off the top. We're going to talk about the global box office, Zootopia 2, gobbling up and getting to the $1 billion club faster than any PG-rated film in history. Now, we talked about this last week on Friday, basically that it was going to happen. It was basically an inevitability. It was going to get there. But it happened over the weekend, so, no surprise there. Disney's sequel is now also doing astounding business overseas. Of course, we have talked about China, where it's just completely escaped the curse of most Hollywood movies in recent years in China, especially since COVID. And now it's become the second highest grossing Western movie ever behind Avengers Endgame. It actually, if it keeps going, it has the potential to outstrip Avengers Endgame as the highest grossing, Hollywood movie in China. Now, to continue on the story about Zootopia 2's box office, while it was number 2 the previous weekend when Five Nights at Freddy 2 came out, it returned to number 1 this past weekend. So Disney doing really good with their animation side of things. But Disney also had Ella McKay suffer one of the worst debuts ever for the studio with just $2 million of the opening weekend. You see here the image from the movie. Of course, Jamie Lee Curtis. Why am I forgetting? That's the chick that looks like Margot Robbie. I'm forgetting the name. Somebody will tell me. Emma McKay. There you go. She's not just a Margot Robbie lookalike. She's a great actress in her own right. But Ella McKay, to dive into a little bit more detail as far as the box office goes, while of course Zootopia 2 joined the $1 billion club, so Disney's definitely laughing all the way to the bank. They did put out Ella McKay, which, like I mentioned, had a really, really low opening number. $2.1 million makes it the fourth worst domestic opening of all time for a new release, and with 2,500 plus theaters. Basically, it's a wide release. You would consider this a wide release. Of course, we exclude re-releases because that's not really a fair comparison. So we're talking about brand new releases in at least 2,500 theaters. And you look at the list here. Some of these records are not particularly good. I mean, none of these are good, but they're just like at a time where clearly Disney's on a high with Zootopia 2 now, and you've got Avatar coming in next week. At the same time, you could see that not every movie does as well. And Ella McKay came in with the second worst domestic opening of all time for a new release, opening in 2,500 theaters with a traditional theatrical release. So it's not a day and date where it's going on streaming on the same day as it comes out in theaters. It's had the fourth worst domestic opening of all time for a new release opening in 2,500 plus theaters that I just mentioned. And then it's the fifth worst domestic opening of all time for any release opening in 2,500 theaters or more, including re-releases. So you look at the list here. I mean, you got Scoob at the very top of the list. We know how well that played out. Reminiscence, I forgot what that was even about. Friend Request, no, not good. Cop Shop, Love Again, Victor Frankenstein. You look at the list here. Ella McKay sitting in fourth. Most of these movies nobody even remembers. Scoob, I only remember it because it was like at the time when Warner Brothers was trying to like get rid of these movies under the new Discovery ownership, or sort of just put them out there and just forget about them kind of thing. And Scoob was one of them. But hey, Zootopia 2, on the other hand, not only did it do really well in the US and of course in China, and so the big North American and China markets are doing great, it's also leading the UK and Irish box office, of course, as Avatar Fire and Ash looms, because that is the next big one. I wanted to get your takes on this. If you guys are watching live, let me know what you think. A little bit of an oval to Ella McKay. I think Disney kind of forgot that movie existed because I certainly didn't see any marketing for it, and you could tell the results, showed that. But Zootopia 2 has joined the $1 billion club. Is the third movie this year, and probably 3 or 4, because Wicked for Good certainly ain't getting there. Like, that movie came in high and really hot and then just completely fell off a cliff. And you could tell that, the people had a much, much more positive reaction to the first Wicked movie. And therefore, if you look at the box office, the drop for Wicked for Good from opening weekend since, it's not going to get to that number. Well, it potentially could have if it was a better movie. It doesn't seem to be the case. And of course, we already had movies like F1, Superman, Fantastic Four, the new Avengers, aka Thunderbolts, of course, and then Captain America, Brave New World. None of those comic book movies made $1 billion. But Minecraft got, pretty much got there. It got close at least. Or did it get there? Am I remembering this wrong? Did Minecraft make? I might be blanking on this. No, it made $960 million. It almost got there. I remember it almost got there. But Lilo and Stitch did. 2025 billion dollar movies, there's not many of them. There's really not many of them. Lilo and Stitch, obviously another Disney movie, so when they hit, they hit. Neja 2, if you do believe all the numbers, that certainly was a $1 billion movie. $2 billion movies if you go off the numbers that were being reported. And then of course now Zootopia 2. The common thread amongst all of them, they're all animated movies. So and of course 2 of them are Disney movies. So yeah, the sequel was and again, none of these movies are like revolutionary in the sense they're reinventing the wheel, but they're just building on the success and popularity of the originals. Avengers Doomsday teasers, Cole. We will get to that later. So hello, thank you for tuning in live. Disney wins again, yeah, and they'll continue winning because Avatar Fire and Ash looms, and it will be here in just days' time, quite frankly. And If not, I mean, depending on when you're watching this, you might already have Avatar playing in theaters, especially if you're going to one of the early screenings. So that's another Disney one, right? Like they bought that as part of the 20th Century Fox purchase. It was one of the biggest reasons why Disney bought 20th Century Fox. So with that in mind, let me know what you think. The weekend box office report, Zootopia 2 becomes the third movie of the year to join the $1 billion club, the second Disney movie to do so. A big assist from China, of course, making up almost like half of the box office number there, like roughly, and it's climbing its way up to getting to Avengers Endgame territory in terms of the numbers it's doing in China, and then in North America it's doing fantastically well as well. So a $1 billion animated hit for Disney. They've got Toy Story 5 coming out next year. Of course, we got Shrek 5 coming out next year, which is not a Disney movie, but nonetheless, animated family 4-quadrant movies tend to do really, really well. And this is another example of that. Lilo and Stitch, now Zootopia 2. I wonder what that means, because if you are making a movie that is aimed at a family audience, you know that, it's a safer bet. And certainly this one's paying off.
What's real is family.
You're not wrong, Win. We'll get to you. We'll get to what you're talking about. Vin Diesel is going to be on one of the topics later on. To answer your question quickly before I pivot over to talking about the next story, Enterprising asking, is it me or could Avatar potentially fail to make $1 billion? James Cameron seems to be the least confident of this current Fire and Ash of all the 3 Avatar movies so far. Like he has said, look, if I don't get to make a 4th one, which he's already shot some stuff for as early as when he was making the 2nd movie, he's like, I'm okay with that. I've got all these other projects lined up, and he's never talked about it in that way, like publicly just doubting himself or doubting the ability for his movie to do as well. Now, he's never said like, oh yes, I'm not going to make $1 billion. I think the Avatar Fire and Ash, simply because of how popular the first 2 movies were and are, it's gonna make at least $1 billion. I think even in today's economic climate, I think it can sleepwalk its way to $1 billion. The question will be more, can it get to 1.5, 2 billion? 2 billion is if Avatar Fire and Ash joins the $2 billion club, it would become the part of the only trilogy to ever have 3 movies in the $2 billion club, because the first 2 did it. Can the 3rd one do it? Even the Avengers movies haven't quite got that many movies in the $2 billion club. So yeah, the Simpsons movie 2 will also be big. That's another good one. So yeah, and we'll talk more about Avatar coming up, I'm sure, again later in the week as well. We'll be reviewing Avatar Fire and Ash, but right now let's talk about the latest updates from the winds of change that are going on in Hollywood right now, including, of course, the story on the business side of Hollywood is the Warner Brothers Discovery bidding war. Now, I'm just going to go over some of the latest updates. Recently, Netflix co-CEOs, they sent out a memo to their employees saying, we see this Warner Brothers deal, as a win for the entertainment industry, not the end of it. Again, Ted Sarandos and, of course, Peter Burge, or Greg Peters, I should say. I keep calling him Peter Burge. It's a different dude. But basically, Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters, the co-CEOs of the company, they've been trying to just play down all the panic alarms that all of Hollywood is sounding around their deal for Warner Brothers, which is understandable, because getting Warner Brothers and HBO Max, the 2 things in terms of the theatrical movie business of Warner Brothers, and then HBO just home box office, like the best of the best in television. It seems like the 2 business models are the antithesis of what Netflix does, which Netflix is all about general entertainment. We will give you the good elite stuff, but we'll also just give you anything and everything you can possibly hope for. And that just usually means, some trashy stuff at the same time as, something like The Queen's Gambit. And at the same time, you'll get knockoff shows that the better looking and sounding HD TV shows about real estate tours and stuff. So Netflix has it all, right? HBO doesn't quite do that. HBO only gives you the very best of the best. Warner Brothers puts movies in theaters. Netflix does not. So this is what the Sarandos and Peters memo to the employees said. It was entirely expected, talking about the Paramount hostile bid, but we have a solid deal in place. It's great for our shareholders, great for the consumers, and a strong way to create and protect jobs in the industry. We are confident we'll get it over the finish line, and we are genuinely excited about what's ahead. So I get what they're trying to say here. Again, we've talked about it at length. Do we really believe that they're going to let Warner Brothers continue to do what they're doing now, like making TV shows for other companies and streamers? And will they continue to let HBO kind of do its thing and have that independence that Casey Bloys currently enjoys under David Zaslav? You know, it depends on how much you're willing to believe these two guys, because even they will tell you and have said so that their plans right now are largely to leave Warner Brothers and HBO to be what they are for the foreseeable future. But the foreseeable future, by definition, you know, means that there is eventually going to be a future where things might change, so, or will change. And to me, I just personally still don't believe Netflix all that much, considering the role they played in extending the Hollywood work labor strikes that happened a couple of years ago. One of the biggest reasons why they went on for as long was because Netflix wasn't willing to budge on their AI plans and stuff, and that seems to be where Hollywood is going. And Netflix seems to be one of the biggest proponents of that, you know. And if they do end up with Warner Brothers, if Paramount ends up not getting their way with the hostile bid, then will we have Warner Brothers movies in theaters anymore, right? Jane Fonda, of course, she is one of the big, you know, outspoken celebrities out there, sounding the alarms about the deal. And she recently did a little spoof of Nicole Kidman's beloved AMC Theaters ad with a little Warner Brothers twist on it. It talks about how somehow mergers feel good in a place like this. Yeah, she also called the deal an alarming escalation of the consolidation at theaters that threatens the entire entertainment industry, which I totally agree with what she's saying here, because consolidation is coming and has been for a long time. I just think with Netflix, it might hasten the potential demise of the theatrical, you know, experience. And that's just, to me, a sacred part of the movie going experience. You can't replicate that at home. We have talked about it at length. And yeah, if you guys want to have fun with it, if you're feeling a little down about this, go look up the parody video, because it definitely parodies the AMC ad almost to the T. Some of the lines of dialogue from it that Jane Fonda says in this little ad. She says, "Come to this place for mergers. We stream to self-silence, to censor, to slop, where content is chosen by the best billionaires we have. Dazzling focus group to pre-digested content that lets your brain not do too much thinky. You know, we're in a place where mergers feel good," or whatever. Like it's good parody work. That's for sure. That's for sure. HBO Max is the number 4 streamer, because I think it goes, to answer your question, Eric, it is Netflix, Amazon Prime, then Disney Plus, which now includes Hulu as well, and then of course you have HBO Max number 4. Do you think James Gunn will stay or go, Hunter Iggy? That's a good question. I think James Gunn will stick around for the foreseeable future, no matter which way this goes, because regardless of whether Paramount or Netflix ends up buying Warner Brothers, it's going to be a situation where it will take them a couple of years for all this to, you know, settle in. So by that time, the DCU will be even more entrenched than it is today, and then they will have even more projects that are in the works. Really, I would say 12 months from now, we'll have a slightly better idea of where things might be headed in terms of the influence of the new owners of the company. But as of right now, Man of Tomorrow is going to go ahead as planned. The Batman Part 2 will be doing the same. And pretty much anything that's in some, you know, state of production right now, whether it's Supergirl in post-production, Clayface, Lanterns, and even other projects like, you know, the scripts for Wonder Woman and Batman Brave and the Bold. And even the Teen Titans, like, if that's still a thing. I think a lot of those projects will remain unaffected for at least another 12 to 18 months. After that, once the new management is in place, maybe they'll decide to kick James Gunn and Peter Safran out. It's unlikely, considering the success they're having so far. I think when we need to start worrying is if James Gunn and Peter Safran's plans start to go a little sideways in terms of the success that they have. Like if Supergirl doesn't hit the way Superman did, or if Lanterns just is completely panned as a TV show, or of course if Clayface doesn't do very well at all. That will be a turning point, and I think that's when we should start to worry a little bit about James Gunn and Peter Safran's future prospects with Warner Brothers under whether it's Netflix or Paramount. As of right now, though, I think it's just one of those situations where they're doing some of the best work of any executives across the Warner Brothers lot. So like it's the old saying, like why fix it if it ain't broken? Like there's no reason to do that. Like why would you kick them out if you don't have a plan to replace them? Like the new ownership, you got to remember, like what are their end goals with DC? And right now I don't think you can have better people in place and in charge, and if they do have to defend their jobs, they can easily go to the new owners with their plans for what they've got coming up down the road in the years to come. And so far, nobody's done as good of a job or as comprehensive of a job of putting a plan together for what DC could be, not just today, but also 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. That's what David Zaslav worked with Gunn and Safran on putting together. So, and that must have been, even with a thought in the back of his mind for David Zaslav that there is a possibility that Warner Brothers might, be owned by somebody else by then. But you want to have certainty, you want to have a plan. And then if things are going well with what you're putting out now, then chances are things will keep going well if you keep making the right decisions. So I'd say the odds of them staying are pretty high right now. It could change, but as of right now, I would say they're sticking around. I don't think Peter Safran and James Gunn are going anywhere. Enterprising saying, I hope Supergirl hits it out of the park. The fact that the teaser got a more mixed reception is disappointing, but I have confidence in the film itself. Yeah, I also think the teaser was not as good as Superman, but I also think you're comparing apples to oranges because the first Superman trailer, yes, you can say it's a Superman movie, it's a Supergirl movie, like they're similar characters in the sense that they're both Kryptonian and whatnot. And you want to pitch them as like almost equals. It's not like Supergirl's just a derivative character, even though that's how she started out. Like in this new DCU, they're meant to be on equal footing, more or less. So I understand that from that perspective, that there's a similarity enough to compare. But I do think it's apples and oranges because Superman had to really over deliver on its first trailer because it was the first live action big movie in the new DCU. So they had to go in with a more comprehensive trailer. That's what James Gunn did. Even though it was just still a teaser trailer, it was longer. It showed us a lot more than Supergirl did. Like we got barely a second, if that, of Lobo. Like relative to that, we got way more of the Justice Gang in the first Superman trailer, right? So I think with Supergirl, they're holding back a little more, either because they don't have as much to give away, but also potentially because they feel a little more safer now because of Superman's success. But at any rate, like the second trailer hopefully will calm any fears people have, because right now you've only seen like less than 2 minutes, really, if you take out the time for the graphics in the trailer of actual footage from the movie. I'm not willing to say that the movie's going to be terrible or amazing just based on less than 2 minutes of footage of what's probably going to be a roughly 2 hour long movie. I think they said it was under 2 hours with the last cut that Peter Safran had seen. It might go up. Usually the time will go down. So like it's not going to be, as long as Superman, but again, less than 2 minutes of the hour 50 whatever minutes it's currently running at in the edit. That's a very small chunk of time. Like there's a lot of movie we haven't seen. So I'm willing to wait to see, what the next trailer looks like, and then from there onwards. All right, Hunter Iggy asking, this fake news article from Cosmic Book News says that Netflix wants a darker tone. Yeah, look, here's the thing. Cosmic Book News, 90% of the time, are talking bullshit. They'll pretend that it's not because, a broken clock is right twice a day, so they want to make you think that they're right more of the time, or like, it's that confirmation bias. When they get something close to being right, they'll go back like, we brought this to you first, therefore, trust. The implication is trust us for our next scoop. but a lot of the time what they're saying is not true. And quite frankly, I think it's too early for us to surmise anything about like, oh, it's too dark, or like, sorry, like Netflix wants to have a darker tone. I don't think Ted Sarandos and the team over at Netflix are making those decisions yet. I don't think, unless Ted Sarandos is a closeted super DC fan, I don't think he's sitting up at night wondering what he's gonna do with the DC characters once he's acquired Warner Brothers. Right? It's gonna be a big chunk of the value that DC that Warner Brothers has comes from DC, but I don't think it's that specific. Like, that's just a shot in the dark. Yeah, he wants a darker tone. Sure. There's a 50-50 chance that that's true or not true. And if it's not true, Cosmic Book News is not going to talk about it. But if it is somewhat true or somehow ends up being true, then they'll say, if we brought this to you, remember a year ago we reported this? I would take it with a big ass grain of salt. It's too early for any new potential owner, whether it's Netflix or if it ends up being Paramount, to be making those plans just yet. Besides, they will have then the inertia of the current existing DCU, because ultimately the fans will tell them, like, look, we love what we got going on right now. Like, we don't need to rehash things, like, or retcon things now. Because what would you want to kickstart a third new cinematic universe within a 6-year time span? I don't think that's what's going to be best for business for Netflix, for Paramount, for Warner Brothers, for DC. Like, you want to keep up with what you got going on, especially if it's working, right? Like, every time you see a reboot, it's usually because they're either going in a very, very different creative direction that just can't jive with what you got going on right now, but more likely is because it's just not doing well financially. So, yeah, and then as far as Supergirl's conversation around it, it's like Guardians conversation. Trust me, it's only in like this very small, echo chamber of the online nerd sphere. The majority of the people are not going to make that comparison, once the movie comes out, especially because, look, right now, like I said, we've only got less than 2 minutes of footage to go off of. Once you see the entirety of the movie, chances are you'll change your mind, because there's probably going to differentiate itself from Guardians a lot more. And even if it's like it, I mean, Guardians was like Marvel's Star Wars, right? So then therefore this is like Star Wars. Like, then before even Star Wars, there were other examples. Like, there's many other sci-fi that feel like Guardians of the Galaxy, and Guardians of the Galaxy itself felt like Star Wars in a lot of ways. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's not derivative of anything else. It's doing its own thing. It just happens to look similar because it's taking place in space, right? At some point, there's only so many ways that you can, slice an egg, or whatever the saying is. Like, there's only so many ways you can do that and tell these stories. So there's nothing original in Hollywood. Like, there's that whole idea, there's only like a few specific ways you can tell a story, and that's about it. And then every story that you see, whether it's a movie or TV show, is doing one of those things. So if you really boil it down and want to get it, be very philosophical about it, then yeah, I mean, sure, it looks like Guardians, but that's a very superficial comparison. Why don't Netflix bring back Zack Snyder verse on Netflix streaming and have the DCU in theaters? You know what, Hunter? I think the reason why is because it just would be throwing a lot of money at it, and clearly with like if you look at the numbers for the Snyder cut, the Zack Snyder's Justice League, the streaming numbers it did on HBO Max were not as big as some of the other movies that were theatrical movies that debuted on HBO Max. They were good, but they weren't good enough for them to what would be a very expensive, parallel universe that they would want to run. And you also are in a situation where, from a logistics and just realistic production standpoint, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill, their contracts are no longer in place. They're doing other things. They're busy. It's about getting those commitments from actors. It's about bringing all those creatives back to the table. It costs money. It costs time. And then people will be confused because, I mean, I'm not saying they'll be confused simply because they can't tell the difference. I mean, yes, they will be able to tell the difference. It would just feel repetitive, and it would also just draw an unnecessary comparison. You're cannibalizing your own audience. You're also just inviting more controversy for no reason. Like, why divide your audience's attention between two different iterations of the cinematic universe going on concurrently? But beyond all of that, before you get to any of those things, I don't know if they're going to be able to get Ben Affleck back. I don't know if Aquaman, like if Jason Momoa wants to keep doing Aquaman, and especially when he's going to be doing Lobo at the same time in this DCU. I don't see like Henry Cavill coming back in again while he's got 4 or 5 other projects where not only is he acting, but on several of them he's also producing. Like, he's busy enough. And quite frankly, those actors have mostly also aged up to the point where it might be a little too late, you know? And Zack Snyder never said that he wanted to do this expansive cinematic universe that was going to last for years and years and years. At best, he probably wants to do, if you ask him, maybe like 2 more movies, if that. And for them to go back and try to like pay that off from a movie now that came out, what, 3 or 4 years ago, just doesn't make sense. Because it's not like they're going to have to spend just $70 million to finish a movie that was already shot. You have to start from scratch. Like, why would you spend $200-300 million making a movie that goes straight to streaming? And if yes, Netflix has a much bigger subscriber base than HBO Max, so chances are it will do better if they put it straight on Netflix. But it's you know, you still have to wonder if would Zack Snyder even want to still do that. What, you know, I'm sure Gal Gadot would want to come back as Wonder Woman, but like, would they want to work with Ezra Miller again? Like, there's a lot of PR nightmares that still sort of like the lingering, you know, effects of everything that went on with that. It just doesn't make sense. You know, it just doesn't make sense. I think it's too late. So there's just a lot of different reasons why they wouldn't do that. Netflix, there's a reason why they're such a successful company today. It's because they make good business decisions. And bringing the DCEU back now, especially at the behest of the DCU and everything else DC Studios is doing now, is a bad business decision. So I just don't think that will happen. Nivea is saying, I hope DC movies doesn't all feel too James Gunnish. Want each movie to feel different from one another. Yes, 100% agree with you. I absolutely do. I think there's something to be said about this upcoming year's slate of DC projects at the movies and on TV, from Lanterns to Clayface to Supergirl, in the sense that these projects are all neither written or directed by James Gunn. I keep saying that this will be a defining year for the young DCU because we need to now finally be able to see how much of an impact does James Gunn have? How heavy-handed is he on projects where he's not directing and writing? Because pretty much everything we have seen so far from the DCU, James Gunn either wrote and or directed himself, or had a very, very close, you know, attachment to it and was involved on it, like whether it's Creature Commandos or Superman or Peacemaker Season 2. All of those are James Gunn projects. Now these are, you know, not going to be James Gunn projects. So how do they feel different? Do they feel different? Do we get to a point where, like in the Marvel, you know, the heyday of the MCU, even people were like, there's this thing called the Marvel look and feel. Like, even if it's, you know, Kevin Feige's not directing those movies, but regardless of whether you're watching Iron Man 2 or you're watching Captain America, not Brave New World, I guess Brave New World is one example as well, is that, you know, trademark Marvel humor, that grayish look that a lot of their movies have. Some of it is on purpose because it's all meant to be in the same continuity, but you do get the sense sometimes that a lot of movies from Marvel feel the same. DC hopefully will not do that, and James Gunn so far has hinted and said as much that he wants to these movies and TV shows to feel different from each other, to have each of the creators, you know, pretty much put their stamp on all of these projects, make them their own, and hopefully Craig Gillespie was able to do that from a great script by Ana Noguera, if you ask James Gunn. And yeah, like, okay, Enterprising, you were talking about Amber Heard's career and Ezra Miller's careers. Yeah, it's just, those are other two actors you wouldn't want to necessarily be working with again, and if you're DC or Warner Brothers. So another reason why the DCU is probably dead and gonna stay that way. Yeah, Hunter, we talked about all of the leaks from the Lantern series on the DCU Daily Show, so you feel free to go back and you know, hit rewind on DCU Daily. John talked about it at length. Some of the leaks are more believable than others. Again, there is a trailer that exists, so I do believe the description because a lot of press have seen that trailer. But until it comes out to the public on the internet, I'm not really sure how I feel about it because I haven't seen it. Like, reading a description and watching the actual trailer could be two very different experiences. But yeah, we talked about it in more length in DCU Daily. Do you think if Netflix buys Warner Brothers, asking Nivea, it will affect the box office for all DC movies as people know that they can see it on Netflix in maybe 2 weeks? Yes. In fact, that's one of the biggest reasons why, you know, everybody in Hollywood is worried about this, is because they think that Netflix, because Ted Sarandos famously wants to, or infamously wants to cut the theatrical window down to 17 days, which is literally a little over 2 weeks, as opposed to what theaters want is 45 days. That's a difference of 28 days. That's an entire lunar cycle. That's a month difference between what Ted Sarandos wants over at Netflix, who are currently in a deal to buy Warner Brothers, and what the theaters want, like AMC, Regal, Cineplex, Cinemark, all of them. They want 45 days or more of exclusivity in theatrical releases. That's a big difference. So I do believe that that will have a material financial impact on DC and Warner Brothers movies if they're playing in theaters for less time, because that means they have less than half the amount of time to make money at the box office before they come out on streaming, or like whether it's on Netflix, or if HBO Max survives post merger, then it just I think that's gonna probably kill the theatrical experience in a lot of ways. Is it gonna kill theatrical completely? No. Is it gonna diminish it significantly? Yes, because you still have other studios like Universal, Sony. You still have Paramount if they don't end up with Warner Brothers as its own thing. You still have Disney, of course. So like, there's still a lot out there, but it's one fewer, and that does hurt. It definitely does hurt. Like, Superman was in theaters for 35 days, and we were bemoaning that rightfully, that it should have stayed in theaters for longer. Could have kept on making more money. Not that it was making a lot of money, but it would, it was slowly trickling up. So it wasn't like it had completely stopped making money. 17 days would be half of that number that Superman did. So yeah, not good. Not good for theatrical movies, at least. Yeah, Netflix will have to compromise. I still think 25 to 30 days is too little. I personally would want to see 60-day. I want to go back to what we had before, 60, 90 days windows. And then wait, like, don't put a movie on streaming right afterward. Like, give it a time, give it more time to be on digital, to be on physical media, for people to like go and keep buying the movie, essentially, or renting it before it ends up on streaming. We gotta like break people out of this habit of, I'll catch it on streaming. Like, back in the day, if you wanted to catch it on streaming, you would have to wait a year or more to do that. Let's get back to that, shall we? Because then that will force more people to go to the theaters, because there's a lot of movies that people just say, I'm gonna catch it on streaming. And that attitude further diminishes the theatrical runs of movies. Whereas if movie studios were keeping these movies playing in theaters for at least 2 months or more, and then after that still waited another 6 months or two, to a year before they put them on a streaming service, that extends those other post-theatrical windows for the movie to make money before it ever gets to streaming. Because, and then when it gets to streaming, it will still do well on streaming because it's still a popular movie. But, like, for example, like, I think Top Gun Maverick is a great recent example of a movie that did all of that and had all the success because of it. Not that every movie will have that level of success, but if you're talking about, when it works, it really works. Top Gun Maverick, and I'll give you my experience alone. I watched it in theaters multiple times, so I paid money every time to do that. Like, the amount of money I paid for each ticket was probably roughly the amount of money I would have had to pay to rent it on digital, or maybe 2 tickets worth of money to like actually buy it on Blu-ray, which I did. So I watched it in theaters multiple times. Then I got it on digital. I spent another $30 buying it. And then I got it on Blu-ray. That I got like the whole steelbook thing. So that's another $30 odd. I'm not saying everybody does this, but I'm saying fewer people do it today because of what our current theatrical release window is like, and people are just now conditioned to not spend money to buy or rent the movie. They just wait till it goes on a streaming service that they're paying $25 a month for. It's anyway. This is a bigger longer conversation of it on its own. But I spent money on Top Gun Maverick 4 or 5 different times, and that's all before it even landed on Paramount Plus, which I also pay for. You don't see that with most movies, and that's where I think it comes down to just movies making less money because they have less opportunities to make money, and that means less back end profit points for actors and for producers don't make as much money on movies because there's not as many opportunities to make money, because once it's done with the theatrical run, it's right on streaming. And like the way the streaming revenues work, it's all like this very black boxy thing. It's not very clear cut, like who's going to get the royalties from how many times a Netflix movie was seen by people on the streaming service. that's what's killing. That's a big part of what's killing the movie business. And yeah, Netflix subscriptions are not cheap. Like I pay like 25-30 bucks for Netflix, especially because I have like that one out of household add-on. I've got like the highest plan that they offer. It's expensive, and then you have like the million other streaming services on top of that. So I think streaming services cost too much money, and you know, that's to justify that price point. That's why they're, you know, trying to get more content on there to make it better value for our buck. But it's, you know, it's at the behest of the theatrical experience, and it's all a big circle if you really think about it. But anyway, let's continue on talking about the bidding war updates. Of course, the future of Hollywood, according to the Hollywood Reporter, is arriving faster than ever. And it's not just the Warner Brothers discovery and the mergers and the acquisitions and just consolidation across the industry. We have seen that happen before. You know, AOL bought Time Warner, then, you know, Discovery bought Warner Brothers or Time Warner from AT&T. Now Warner Brothers is out in the market again. This article also mentions like AI is having a big impact as well, like as far as, you know, disrupting things goes back. And Disney seems to always be one step ahead, because back in the day they were like the first studio to sign a deal with iTunes to make all their, you know, shows and movies available on iTunes. Shows you can get each episode for like $1.99 at a time when other studios were like, this is going to kill our industry. And Disney was like the first one to take the dip, and ultimately ended up, you know, winning and from it in a sense, and, you know, making a lot of money from it. That deal with Apple and the iTunes store. Now today, or in the sense that in the past week or so, Disney has signed that deal with OpenAI, and now the OpenAI has basically got licenses to throw a lot of Disney IP and characters into their Sora app, which is an AI generated TikTok equivalent app where you can just type in a prompt and it generates a video for you, which will now be able to feature Disney characters as licensed from the company. Making that comparison is a little tricky because it is somewhat apples and oranges, because they're two very different things from, you know, iTunes Store and Sora. But if, you know, in hindsight, maybe 5 years down the line, we might be wondering, like, everybody else followed Disney's example ultimately. And yeah, I mean, the Hollywood is changing. Ultimately, I think if Paramount doesn't end up with Warner Brothers, they will probably look at either buying NBC Universal from Comcast, or doing a big merger there, or with Sony Pictures, because they just don't have a path to the market, reach otherwise. Like they're just a very small player in a market that, you know, has a couple of really big players and not a lot of room for small players to survive. Like A24 is struggling despite the fact that they've got so much Oscar success. And A24 might end up getting bought by another studio in the not too distant future. Like Focus Features, you know, is the prestige arm of Universal. A24 could end up becoming a prestige arm of Paramount, for example. So there's going to be more and more, you know, mergers and acquisitions. Warner Brothers Discovery is just the biggest one. This is a good article you guys should check out, because it kind of takes a more high-level overview, and gives you a little more of a retrospective look at how Hollywood has gone over the last, not just couple of years, but like last 10 or so years. And it gives you a nice perspective that, you know, it's all happened before, it will happen again, and that there's larger forces at play than just the deal of Warner Brothers Discovery. But hey, you know what? Netflix continues to add on content onto their platform. We talked about it on recent shows that they were working to strike a deal with iHeartMedia, and now they have done that to bring their video podcast to the streaming service. So video episodes from shows, including, of course, Charlemagne the God's The Breakfast Club, and others like it, will stream on Netflix as early as 2026. So if you're a fan of podcasts, like hopefully you are, I mean, if you're watching this show right now, then you'll be getting a lot more of the ones that iHeartMedia owns on Netflix starting next year. And speaking of Netflix, of course, where Netflix leads, everybody else follows, and it looks like BBC might be the latest one to do so, and with their potential plans to move into a Netflix-style model and carrying ads under what would be for BBC a radical reform plan. This is something that if you are a Brit, you might be worried about, because BBC could soon be required to launch a Netflix-style subscription service, according to Deadline, or carry adverts under radical reforms being considered by the UK government. In a policy paper setting out a vision for the BBC's next charter, Ministers said they wanted to keep the license fee, but reform and reduce the funding model by supplementing it with commercial revenue. Basically saying the government doesn't want to foot as much of the bill for BBC anymore, and to make up for that, the lack of funding from the government, they're going to want to bring in more commercial revenue. How do you do that? Maybe you turn the BBC, at least in part, into a streaming service, or maybe you add that in as a source of revenue, kind of like what Netflix does, which is they charge you on a monthly subscription cost to watch their content. BBC is not that, has never been that. It's a public broadcaster, but now they might have an element of that, at least, so that it can make up for the loss of funding that the government is looking to take that money away and probably put somewhere else. So the big ideas on the table could see the BBC launch a top-up subscription service for historical BBC content, so more archival shows, or a more expansive service putting popular content like the ongoing Traitors show, The Traitors, which is the celebrity Traitors, is what you see here in the image. That did really, really well, and I think now it's on Peacock. If you're in the US, you can watch the celebrity Traitors on Peacock, and that could just end up putting the show behind a paywall, which for American viewers, you're like, oh, whatever, what's new? We already get this stuff on streaming services we pay for. But for British viewers, for people who are used to watching ABC for free, this would be a huge, huge change. And it's just, again, you're talking about the business at large, the media business. BBC is publicly funded, but we have seen defunding of like PBS and NPR in the US. It looks like here, at least, while it's not entirely defunding BBC, the UK government might be looking to move in a direction where at least part of BBC's funding comes from a Netflix-style streaming service that the BBC does not have, mind you, right now. But it looks like that's a direction where the UK government might see the future of the public broadcaster going. You let me know what you think about all of that. The latest on the Warner Brothers Discovery bidding war and the business of Hollywood, we'll continue to bring that to you guys. Of course, Paramount has an offer on the table for Warner Brothers to consider. They will be giving the Warner Brothers Discovery their board of directors will be giving their recommendation on whether they choose Netflix or Paramount by the end of this week on Friday. So we'll bring you that news and what that means, whether they stick with Netflix or decide to change their mind. Maybe Paramount ups their offer by then, or maybe Paramount waits until they hear from the board of Warner Brothers Discovery, and then they increase their offer. If they do, will Netflix do the same? We'll talk about that and so much more as it happens. Until then, we're going to switch over and talk about some MCU Weekly. Of course, John did the same on DCU Daily earlier, so I wanted to go through it here. And really, MCU Weekly today, it's going to be a lot of Avengers Doomsday talk because, well, I'm sure you guys saw it on the internet yesterday. Everybody was going crazy. We know that there was a big reveal. There's meant to be 4 Avengers Doomsday teaser trailers playing one a week, in front of Avatar, Fire and Ash. Well, the first one, was leaked on the internet yesterday, which is meant to be this week's teaser, featuring a spoiler alert from here on for the next few minutes while I'm talking about the MCU. Well, the first one featured Captain America coming back, aka Steve Rogers. And now today we have had another leak. The trailer 2 audio got leaked online. And well, even though we didn't get the video, we certainly got a whole hell of a lot from the audio itself. I did not see the latest picture on Zack Snyder's Instagram page. Hunter, I will go look at that after the show. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow on DCU Daily. But as far as Avengers Doomsday goes, of course, there were rumors yesterday that of the first 4 teasers, originally the Steve Rogers one was not going to be the first one out the gates. They changed their minds over at Marvel seemingly, and that's what we're going to get this week with Avatar Fire and Ash. If you go see the movie, you'll see the return of Steve Rogers ahead of the movie playing as one of the trailers you'll see before the movie starts. But according to the leak here, next week's teaser is going to be focusing on Thor. Chris Hemsworth's Thor, of course, praying to his late father Odin in the forest. And it seems like it's at a point in the movie where he's not in a good place, so maybe he's taken a beating or two. It's happened a lot to Thor over the years. So I'm going to read this out here. And again, spoiler alert, it's already on the screen. So, just be forewarned. But apparently Thor is praying to Odin, who, of course, passed away a couple of movies ago in the MCU for Thor, saying, "Of all the crowns, the kingdoms, the pride, I ask for none. Father, hear your son. I am not worthy of life. But still I beg you to let the thread lengthen not for thunder, not for war. Let me remain long enough to see my love once more. His love, of course, being his daughter, who's literally named Love, because she's the love and thunder. Because, anyway, if you saw Thor: Love and Thunder, you know what I'm talking about. So we know that this is going to be another little scene, like a little, insight into where Thor is at, one of the OGs in Avengers lore in the MCU, and looks like we find him again at a crossroads. Maybe Thor does die in Avengers Doomsday. I don't know. He's certainly not in a good place, despite the fact that, the last time we saw him, things were going quite well, and he now had a daughter he was taking care of. So yeah, there's that, and then of course, we can't not mention the before all of these teasers started leaking online, the Russo brothers through their Agbo company were like putting up these cryptic posts on their Instagram account. This to me looks like something straight out of an X-Files episode. The way I interpreted this was like this is like a branching timeline, maybe, because that would imply that the events of the MCU since Endgame have been part of some kind of branching timeline, that, what Steve Rogers did, because now we know he's coming back. Maybe when he was returning the stones and then he ended up staying in the past with Peggy Carter, maybe that's a branch timeline. Maybe what's been going on in the mainline MCU is now considered a branch time. I don't know. It's the logic of all this doesn't really make a ton of sense because of how things played out in Endgame, but still, do you think this means this is a branch timeline? I think that was my first reaction to this, and what the Russo brothers were trying to hint at. Of course, this was before we started to get that Steve Rogers being confirmed as coming back. Nivea saying Steve Rogers is my favorite MCU character. So happy he's back, but I'm scared that they will ruin his character. Feel bad for Sam, even if Steve not Captain America, he's likely going to overshadow Sam. Yeah, I do feel bad for Anthony Mackie. Absolutely. The man just took the helm, and his character's still not half sure that he's even able to do the job. He still wishes he just took the superhero serum or the super soldier serum. And then here comes Steve Rogers out of the past being pulled into the fray. Of course, if you look at it by and large in the story itself, it might play out in a way where, Steve Rogers is only here for the events of the movie. He's not going to be the Captain America again necessarily. He's got a we'll talk about it now in his teaser. If you guys haven't seen it already, again, spoiler alert, but the teaser that you'll go see if you go to see Avatar Fire and Ash this week and you want to watch the Avengers Doomsday teaser, is going to show the return of Steve Rogers, and he's holding a baby. He's starting up a family with Peggy back in the past, to living out the life that he always wanted. So I don't think if Steve Rogers does come back as Captain America in these movies that he will stick around. He's not going to stick around as Cap. So I do feel bad for Anthony Mackie and his iteration of Captain America with Sam Wilson. I just don't think this means that he won't be Captain America anymore. But yes, from the audience's perspective, you're kind of undermining that iteration already. So I totally get the concerns around it. I just want to wait to see how it all plays out in the movie. Because for all we know, Steve Rogers comes back, gets killed off, and, Bob's your uncle. So, I don't know. Bane will break you saying, why so many trailers? This sounds dumb. Just release the main trailer. Yeah, you know what? Here's my thing about all of this. So I'm going to go on a bit of a rant. So if be forewarned. There's a reason why James Gunn, I think rightfully so, decided not to do this whole exclusive theatrical release stuff with Superman. He was like, I'm going to put it on the internet. I'm going to make an event out of it anyway, whether it's, in conjunction with a press event, like they did for Supergirl, or just, kind of building up to it through billboards and whatnot in Times Square, and then releasing the Superman trailer like he did last year. Because he knows if you're going to make these theatrical exclusives to begin with, people are going to leak them online. This is 2025. There's a reason why they don't make the X-Files anymore, is because everybody's got cell phones. People have got a camera in their pocket all the time. We live in a world where you just can't, do things the way they used to do, including theatrical marketing. And whether it's for the Odyssey, that got leaked. Whether it is for the Avengers Doomsday now, that's getting leaked. We talked about on DCU Daily when we were doing the MCU Weekly topic earlier. The Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer got leaked for a little bit. Like, it's all coming out. Like, it's not even Thursday yet when I'm doing this live, and it's all coming out. It not only creates a situation where it's all being undercut, because sure, you can keep these theatrically exclusive, but like the higher and higher resolution versions of these are leaking online. People are getting to see them, and even if they're not seeing them, they're hearing the audio, they're hearing it from their friends who watched it before it got taken down, and so the word spreads, and now the game of telephone goes on. Because you also got to remember, like, if movie studios think that their way to bring people to the movie theater is to give them an exclusive theatrical trailer today, boys and girls, you are a little too late to the game. You created this problem for yourself. Theatrical is dying because of your self-inflicted wounds that we were just talking about with the Warner Brothers Discovery bidding war, with Disney buying Fox before that, and whatever else is going to come down the road. So don't now try to like do theatrical exclusives simply because you want to try to do something like Christopher Nolan is doing with, quite frankly, that is also stupid way to do it, like a 6-minute prologue of the Odyssey for the handful of IMAX 70mm theaters. Like, if you're trying to have mass appeal for your movie, you don't put a 6-minute preview in front of a movie re-releases that only play in literally a handful of theaters across the world. Like, it's going to end up online. Like, most people will discover it that way. So theatrical exclusive trailers just don't work in 2025 quite as well. It ends up being, this mess of a situation that Disney's PR is now rushing to take all these, things down online. Because, yeah, guess what, people? It's expensive these days to have all the streaming services, to go pay for a ticket in the movie theater and pay another arm and a leg for all the snacks and concessions. So people do pirate this stuff and put it online. Piracy is back. Hollywood, wake up. This marketing strategy ain't gonna work if you don't fix some of the other fundamentally flawed things that you're doing with movie releases. So yeah, and then look, as far as right now with what's happening with these trailers, these aren't even proper trailers. They're just like these little scenes. They're like, John told me off the air, that they're not even really teaser trailers. They just feel like end post credit sequences to movies that didn't exist, with a timer at the end, which, by the way, counts down to like something in March, which people are speculating that's going to be the date of the next chair watch announcement, where they line up another set of chairs with names that they didn't announce before, and now we're going to get an official confirmation of Steve Rogers, aka Chris Evans, and then probably Peggy Carter. Why am I forgetting the name? The actress who played her. But all these actors that are in the movie that we didn't know, but now the trailers are confirming. So yeah. Nivea saying, with all of these leaks, are Marvel not going to release the teasers online, theatrical only? Yeah, look, here's the thing. As of right now, we have no idea. They should. We'll find out this weekend. Like, if by Monday or Tuesday that Steve Rogers one does not end up online. I mean, but quite frankly, by the weekend, we might already know what the other two are, because we know one is Thor. We know what's happening in that one. We know the one with Steve Rogers. The video for that has been circulating online. It's still online in places. You could go and find it if you look hard enough. So I bet you the one with Doctor Doom and whoever the fourth one is going to focus on, that's going to end up online eventually too. Figure Drawing saying, to be fair, some people do hit up certain movies in part for hype trailers. Yeah, but not nearly at the level that they used to back in the day. I will say Avatar Fire and Ash is going to have some banger trailers playing ahead of it. The Odyssey, depending on the week, whichever version of the Doomsday one that you get to see, you're going to get to see the trailer for Supergirl in a big theater, but you've already seen that, so it's not really new footage. Then you're probably going to get a Toy Story 5 trailer, whatever the Spider-Man brand new trailer that we talked about on DC Daily, like that will be playing in front of it as well. So you're going to have a lot of these big movie trailers. Maybe you get another first look at Shrek 5, and as well as movies that are coming out early next year. So yeah, maybe you could go sit there for an extra 30-40 minutes and watch trailers, and you will get a bunch of good ones. It's not always the case that you're getting so many banger trailers before a big movie. So Bane will break you saying, when is the next trailer going to be? Watch Thor take a godly dump or watch the Hulk try to use a revolving door? Well, apparently the second one next week is going to focus on Thor praying to Odin, his late father Odin, asking him to extend his life. I assume that means Thor is not in good shape at that point in the movie. That's already leaked online today, Bane, so we expect one of the other ones is going to have Doctor Doom be the focus, and then maybe one might focus on another character, whether it's the Fantastic Four, maybe one of the Avengers teams, or maybe, according to rumors, we might even get a full Doomsday trailer after these 4 have been released. MTG saying theatrical exclusive for the first weekend. Fine, but plan to put a real one out. These are AI versions rolling out around, and honestly, I don't think it helps the excitement. Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's AI because we have seen it from multiple sources, and if it is something completely different when Avatar starts playing, even now as of today, it's Wednesday while I'm doing the show. It's late at night on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. There's theaters around the world where Avatar has already started playing in early previews. So we're gonna find out in just a matter of hours time from now if that Steve Rogers trailer is real or not. And so far, there's nothing to indicate that it isn't real. Are these leaks done on purpose? In this case, I don't think so, because Marvel has tried to take down a lot of these. So usually if they're not taking them down, I would imagine that's part of it. You could still say they could take down some of them, but not every single one. So that, yeah, it does all end up building the hype. So I understand that. That Marvel might be like, you know what, it's, any publicity is good publicity. There's always that kind of thinking. But ultimately, if they were going to make these theatrical only, there's just, it's already online. And the more versions will end up online sooner than later as more people go see the Avatar Fire and Ash on its opening weekend. M2G saying, we have all known they were releasing this trailer for Avatar. Nobody complained, but 4 over 4 weeks is piss poor marketing. Yeah, especially because these are like really short looks. They're not real trailers. So yeah, I mean, yeah, AI versions, you can use AI to kind of clear up the real thing, like the camera shot thing, and it would just kind of smooth it out. Yeah, so people are using AI to clean these up. Now, of course, as far as what all 4 of these are going to be about, I mentioned the first one is Steve Rogers. We know that now. The second one, it looks like, is going to be focusing on Thor. We talked about that just minutes ago. There's going to be one on Doctor Doom. The 4th one seems to be a bit of a mystery in terms of what that's going to be about. Maybe the Doctor Doom one is the last one. So maybe before that, we get the mystery 4th one as maybe the 3rd one. You guys let me know what you think that mystery one is going to be, because we know the other 3. So what about is the 4th one going to be a full teaser trailer, like a proper teaser trailer, which shows the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, as well as the 2 Avengers teams, maybe even the Young Avengers team? Because according to My Time to Shine, they were talking about the God of Thunder. Thor one is with Thor praying in the woods to Odin, which I talked about, so that's not news. But yeah, I don't know. What is going to be the 4th one? The 4th... Okay, so here we go. According to the scoopers here, talking about the 4th teaser is going to be a full-blown trailer. They'd imagine this will be the one that gets an online release in the new year. We only have an audio description, but here's how it's laid out. So take this with a grain of salt. But if you believe that these other ones so far have been true, which for Thor and Steve Rogers it seems to be the case, then again, spoiler alert, but apparently the 4th teaser is going to start off quite ominous and slow, but not quite dark, as there was a glimmer of hope. This is an audio description, so it's not exactly telling us everything. But more notes play slowly, beginning to play off as a reminiscent of the music at timestamp 221 of Venom's 2nd trailer. No idea what that's referencing, because I don't remember minute 221 of the Venom 2nd trailer. But the trailer then ramps up a bit and sounds a little similar to the Thunderbolts Absolute Cinema trailer, but it has club-like vibes, but not with the same energy, coming off as more repressed. The music is slower, deeper, like a heartbeat. The music then transitions into a typical montage-type pace. The music then ramps up again, getting quite powerful, seemingly in order to elicit emotion, with our source likening it to Avengers-like. I don't know how they get the audio description and not the actual trailer, like what actually shows. I don't get that. I don't know why we get this kind of partial information. Um, but okay, so My Time to Shine saying there's a strong theme of fatherhood in Avengers Doomsday. Steve has a son. Okay, we know that now. Thor has a daughter. Of course, we know that from Love and Thunder. And Doom has lost his son, which has been the rumor for a long time, and is seeking revenge for him. And of course, Reed and Franklin Richards, there's a father-son duo. So yeah, more MCU stories with fatherhood problems. So yeah. I mean, the audio description for the fourth teaser sounds like a typical trailer. Like, it starts off with more emotional beats, some lines of dialogue, and then it goes into a montage with a lot of action in it. Music picks up. You probably hear the Avengers music, and the logo comes on, the date for the movie release, and, you know, Bob's your uncle. So, MTG saying, so basically they're focusing on the original tier Avengers. Yeah, no, exactly. The OGs. Yeah, that description does sound a little AI. But again, take it with a grain of salt. This isn't coming from entirely reliable sources. You know, they don't get everything right. Yeah, it's, you know what? It does sound a little bit like the Age of Ultron final, the first teaser trailer, Enterprising. It does. But again, it's such limited information. It's hard for me to believe, like, which way or one way or the other, like, if it's entirely true. MTG saying the Doomsday rollout only highlights how poor Marvel did with the MCU after Endgame. It is tragic, really. More content than ever and zero plan. Yeah, if you believe the folks at Disney, there was a plan, but it quickly fell apart under Bob Chapek, and then they never quite were able to recover. So I guess now they're just saying, fuck it, and we're just going to start over. And I guess we're going to pretend that most of what happened in the intervening years is either not valid or just doesn't matter so much, because we're bringing Steve Rogers back. Chris Evans is back. Cap is back. And Robert Downey Jr. is back playing a different character. But for all we know, he might also be resurrected as Tony Stark. So at least for now, we know that Cap is back. And this article in comicbookmovie.com is talking about the 5 things that we now need to see from Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, and Avengers Doomsday. I think this is worth going through. We're going to go through it quickly. I personally think this is... there's a lot I have very strong opinions about with Doomsday if the story goes in a direction that we think it's going to go. But number 5 would be, we want to know more about Captain America's trip back in time. You know, because he left a young man, and the next time we saw him was the old Steve Rogers. What happened in between all that? You know, which timeline did he spend time with the young Peggy and have a family? Was it the main timeline? Because if that's the case, like... then what about the, why don't we just go back to the old Thanos and, like, the whole war machine, talking about how time travel works in Avengers Endgame. How does that all tie into this? Because technically, according to that theory, the many worlds interpretation, if you go back in time, you're actually creating another branch timeline. So how would Captain America go back in time and still be in the main timeline that he came from? You know, because then they would at one point there were 2 Steve Rogers running around. Like, one of them was probably, slowly walking along, the old Steve Rogers, and then one of them was running around fighting Thanos. So I don't know how the time travel mechanics all work. It's an ever-evolving paradox, Enterprising. And it seems like it was one of those things where, if you left Steve Rogers in the past and just let him, ride off into the sunset and did not go back to explore that more, then I'm sure people could have kept on debating it forever, like the Inception. Did the top actually stop spinning at the end or not? Christopher Nolan's never going to give you an answer. But now that we're going back to it, it's just going to raise all those questions all over again. And then also, like, how does that relate to the multiverse to begin with? Did Steve Rogers actually cause those incursions? If he did, and if that led to the death of the son and the family of Doctor Doom, do you really blame Doctor Doom? Like, is Steve Rogers the bad guy for doing that? Because, like, he probably didn't just cost the lives of Doom's family, but probably millions, billions of others in all the multiverse. So isn't Steve Rogers, really the bad guy here because he made a very selfish choice that cost the lives of billions, unbeknownst to him maybe, but I don't know, he has to live with that or die for his sins. So yeah. Great Scott, where's Doc when you need him? Exactly. I know, right? Like, where is Doc when you need him? But I guess it depends on which version of time travel we're talking about. The other question I'm sure you guys are wondering, will Steve Rogers wield the shield again? Will he become Captain America? Because according to the teaser trailer featuring Steve Rogers that you can see in theaters this week, he's got the suit from Endgame, but it's sort of put away and it's in his past. So, but now he's also got a young baby, assuming that it's a son. And if you go off the comics, like, will he end up taking the suit and become Nomad? You know, there is precedence for that. Like, are we going in that direction? Are we going to see that in these movies or not? Is Steve going to reassemble the Avengers? What about Sam Wilson's Captain America and him assembling his Avengers team? It's sort of like it just sort of like, are you going to undermine all of that? Who are the Avengers today? You know, like, what about Old Man Rogers? Like, well, what happened to him? You know, and Peggy Carter's husband died. I mean, was that Old Man Rogers? And then, because that was in like Civil War, and that happens before Avengers. I don't know, like, it makes your mind hurt. Like, it's just, to me, there's a lot of confusion, and I feel like Marvel has all of a sudden like invited all of that, you know, chat all the way back. I'm sure they have a plan, because they wouldn't have gone to the effort of, you know, going and completely rehashing all of this and changing up the two Avengers movies, what they were going to be about, from the Kang Dynasty now to Doomsday. I just hope that whatever the hell they've got in their minds that they just spend millions of dollars making, that it makes some sense. Because sometimes you're willing to live with the paradox, because, you know, it's a freaking movie after all. So, like, ultimately, if you try to make it very scientifically accurate, you know, you're not going to have a movie, most likely. But you know, you still want to have the logic be consistent with the logic of the cinematic universe. Like, this is the same MCU where they were talking about, you know, when you travel to the past, now your present becomes your past, and your past becomes your present, but your future, like the way, you know, Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner explains it, like, that doesn't quite jibe well with the Back to the Future version of time travel. So I don't know. It's just, I personally, the biggest thing for me about all of this is the fact that, look, ultimately, Marvel's just put a lot of pressure on themselves by basically admitting that everything that they've done post Endgame was, for the most part, trash. Not everything, but for the most part, was not good, to the point where they need to go back and bring Steve Rogers and, you know, well, at least Robert Downey Jr. playing a different character, Doctor Doom, but who knows, maybe at this point Tony Stark might be coming back as well. So yeah, it really I've got mixed feelings about it. I don't know, like, I've got so many thoughts. I'm sure you guys too have a lot of thoughts about this. You let me know what you think. Are you even liking these teaser trailers, like the way they're meant to be playing out? Would you rather just have a proper trailer and rather than these 4 little teases? What do you think is going to go on in March when you know, we get to that time, that ticking clock at the end of these teasers, which is, I think, all leads to a March date in 2026, where are they going to do another trailer? Are they going to do another, you know, announcement of more cast members joining Doomsday now officially? Let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, or how do the X-Men fit into all of this? You know, hey, Filmology, like, just where is the MCU headed? What does this all mean? There's so many questions. There's more questions than answers at this point. I'm sure that was their intention. But hey, you know what? In the meantime, we're going to move on to MovieTalk Madness, and we've got a couple of fun ones to talk about. Vin Diesel apparently was saying that he wrote a role for Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest football soccer players of all time, in the next Fast movie, saying the actor and soccer star, well, the Hollywood Reporter is saying here that the actor, of course, on the left there, and the soccer star on the right, posed for a photo together on Instagram where Vin Diesel teased the athlete's potential involvement in the franchise. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Cristiano Ronaldo could you know, end up joining the Toretto, the Fast family? And if so, where would he end up in the is he gonna be another long lost brother to Vin Diesel, like to Dom Toretto, or is he an enemy and then he eventually becomes you know, friendly, or is he just playing a supporting role? Like, I don't know how he all fits in. I do know it's gonna be somehow, you know, something to do with family.
Your brother never told you never threaten a man's family?
What's all this about Win being a writer? I know, right? I should have used the one where like family just got bigger and it's like from the fourth movie. I don't know where that one is. That would have been perfect for this. How is Doomsday a direct sequel to Endgame? That means no shows or movies in Phase 4 or 5 are important. Exactly, Nivea. That's what I was talking about. Like these teasers imply that at least to a certain degree. But anyway, yeah, Bane will break you saying he will be another lost brother. I could still see the resemblance, Cristiano Ronaldo and Vin Diesel, totally brothers. Figure Drawing saying, here's my take on Avengers Doomsday teasers. Is the act of treating trailers as important as they used to be smart? Probably not, but I do like the act of taking them seriously in terms of theatrical exclusives. I get it, I do. I just think it's a little like half-hearted and I'm just cynical about it. That's all. Enterprising things is just going to be a glorified cameo. Yeah, Groot is writing. Indeed. So this is what he actually captioned on his Instagram photo, saying, everyone asked, would he be in the Fast mythology? I gotta tell you, he's a real one. We rewrote a role for him. So I guess we'll find out, like we've definitely seen a lot of people who are not actors per se, Ludacris, and many others join the Fast franchise over the years and certainly do a decent to terrible job, I guess. We know there's a movie in the works at some point, and that Vin Diesel has been in talks with the executives at at Universal Pictures, and they're trying to get something together for 2027. April 2027 is a date that's been thrown around for a while. I honestly don't know when this movie comes out, but would you want to see Cristiano Ronaldo be the latest addition to the Fast franchise, to the Toretto family, as it were? Let us know. Is he writing a Rock'em Sock'em robot movie? Thank you. You know what? That would be great. I would just go watch it because it would be probably just dumb, stupid fun. Yeah, the Fast and Furious movies the last couple of them have been mostly nonsense. I agree with you. I think the last good Fast and Furious movie was Furious 7. Since then, it's really been hit or miss, like mostly miss. But hey, you know what? That's not the only big movie that we got to talk about today, because we have to talk about the Beauty and the Beast spin-off, the live action spin-off movie Gaston, based on, of course, the character of Gaston, who was played by, as you might remember, Luke Evans in the Beauty and the Beast movie with the of course, I was gonna say Emma Stone, but that's not it. Why am I forgetting? She played Hermione in the Harry Potter movies. She's mostly retired as an actress right now. Let's see. Emma Watson. Why am I forgetting that? I guess because she doesn't do many movies these days. But anyway, Luke Evans was a big, a breakout hit, at least the character of Gaston was. And, they had this implied sort of romance with Josh Gad's character in the movie, which was sort of like a one-way thing. But it looks like Disney is finally following through on a spin-off, like years after they probably should have, really. But here we go. So this is from, I think this came out yesterday, but we didn't have a chance to talk about it. So here we are. The film will be written by David Callahan, whose co-writing credits include Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Okay. Plot details haven't been confirmed, and the director hasn't been hired yet. And I also saw that, it's not going to be, the Gaston in this movie is not going to be played by Luke Evans. Unless that changes, it looks like they're going to go in a different direction. So, yeah. Look, the Gaston character was, like I said, one of the best parts of Beauty and the Beast. And Luke Evans, you give him anything and he will make a meal of it. So it'll be interesting to see if they go, with a younger actor, maybe. What about Josh Gad's character? Is he going to be back, or is somebody else going to play that role? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, you know what? Disney, again, looking to capitalize on one of their classics. The live action Beauty and the Beast did really, really well when it came out, and Gaston was one of the standouts. So maybe a few years too late. But I guess they're finally getting around to a Gaston movie. Dude, by the way, MTG, I'm glad you came around on the Street Fighter trailer, because it was amazing and it was baller, and that movie looks amazing. Even if it has no plot whatsoever, the action looks fantastic, and I can't wait for that movie to come and blow us all away. Even if it's terrible, I'm just gonna be there for the cool visuals. That's what the first Mortal Kombat movie was a couple of years ago, and you know what? I don't remember the movie's plot because there wasn't any, but I do remember some of the action sequences. So if that's all Street Fighter is, then go right on ahead. Gaston getting the wicked treatment, says Bane will break you. Yeah, well, I wouldn't go as far just yet. Like the like we'll have to wait and see if it ends up being as good, or I mean close to that good. Giving Gaston the Maleficent treatment. Yeah, that's another way of looking at it. That's probably a more closer approximation of what they're actually doing, in terms of being like a spin-off to a character that was part of another big, iconic fable made into a Disney movie. So with that, we're going to move into our next story. This is not so much movie talk madness, so I'm going to switch back over to the news graphic here. But let's go from the world of the movies to the world of TV, or streaming in this case. Let's talk about Fallout Season 2. The premiere is now being pushed forward a little bit. It's going to be a little early from the original release date. So Season 2 will be coming to Amazon Prime Video. Well, a little bit earlier than it was expected. Tuesday, December 16th at 6 p.m. Pacific time is when we will get the debut episode, a day earlier than the previously announced December 17th release. Of course, this was announced via a collaboration that Amazon did with the Exosphere of Sphere in Las Vegas, which is described as bringing an element of the season's journey to New Vegas to life by turning Sphere into a post-apocalyptic snow globe featuring series' fan favorite characters Lucy, Maximus, and the Ghoul, and surprising with a monstrously large Deathclaw attempting to break through the exosphere. Interesting. All right. Well, Amazon also pulled the AI-powered Fallout Season 1 video recaps after they got key details wrong. Yikes. Talk about technology that's not ready for the big screen. Yeah, I mean, you get it. It's, when I heard about this, we talked about it as a quick hit. I was like, this is probably not gonna go well, but it's a good idea. Like, better. I'd rather have an actual human editor put together all these recaps before the shows, like they used to back in the day. But if you want to give that job to AI, hopefully it gets it right. But clearly, the AI wasn't up to snuff. So yeah, Fallout comes out with its debut episode. If you're watching us live, then basically you might have already seen it because it came out a day sooner. So now it's Wednesday the 17th, so you might have already seen it. If you haven't, go check it out. The debut episode is out right now, and let me know what you think about it. If you did see it, let me know what you think about it in the comments. Well, we also now have the Rotten Tomatoes score out for the show because of course the reviews came out, and most of the reviews are calling it a worthy adaptation of New Vegas storyline. So as of last check, it was sitting at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Of course, it's a TV show, so not as many reviews, only 32 reviews at the time that this article was written. Season 1, on the other hand, has a score of 93% with 133 reviews. I'm sure that number probably has come down by now. So 100% is a good place to start, though. I know that this is one of those game adaptations that really blew most people's expectations out of the water. So hopefully the second season still does well. I see Yush is in the chat now, so hopefully you're doing well, Yush, and everybody else who's watching live. Hit the like button if you're here. I do appreciate that, and get in the comments down below. It helps out the algorithm, gets the channel out in front of more eyeballs. That's what we like to see. We want to keep growing our community. We have had a huge growth spurt this year. I'd like to keep that up. But hey, you know what? Of all the news we've talked about today, we've got a few more to get into, and we're gonna do them quick hit style. Because why not? Because it's time to get into the funner part of the news. Let's do some quick hits, shall we? So the very first quick hit I'm gonna talk about: Lakeith Stanfield has now replaced Jonathan Majors playing Dennis Rodman in the 48 Hours in Vegas movie. So that looks interesting. It's of course Rick Famuyiwa's forthcoming feature centered around the Rodman, the famous or infamous, depending on how you look at it, Dennis Rodman trip to Las Vegas during the 1998 NBA Finals. If you guys don't know this, during the NBA Finals, Dennis Rodman just ran. He was known to be a big partier, as it were, and he just in the middle of the finals in 1998 went to Vegas for 2 days. Came back and had some of his best games in the finals, but Dennis Rodman is Dennis Rodman. But this movie is going to recount those events, and now instead of Jonathan Majors playing Dennis Rodman, it's going to be Lakeith Stanfield. I think for the most part an upgrade, but that's my opinion. You guys let me know. So yeah, but anyway, let's keep on rolling here. More quickest to come. George Clooney saying that he's no longer kissing girls in movies. When I turned 60, he said, I had a conversation with my wife. And you know what? Good on you, George, because it goes to show you that George Clooney has a moral compass, which a lot of actors probably do not. Saying, I've been trying to go the route Paul Newman did. Okay, well, I'm not kissing a girl anymore, Clooney said. He talked to his wife, Amal Clooney, about his age, and they agreed that it's just not good, in good taste. And you know what? I agree with that. If I were George Clooney, I'd be doing the same thing. Or not doing, well, I guess, yeah, not kissing girls at the age of 70. But yeah, next up, Stranger Things season 5 trailer teases the looming final showdown. This is not over, not by a long shot. Of course, the volume 2 of the show's final season hits Netflix on Christmas Day, everybody. If you have already caught up, then boy, a lot has gone down. And Will Byers, well, he's got a bigger role to play than a lot of people expected going into the season. And we continue with that in this trailer. I'm not going to go through it in too much detail because I know a lot of people might still be behind, but based on the ratings, a lot of you guys already saw volume 1. So, you know, it's building up to a big finale. And volume 2 is just going to be like, act 2 of season 5. I like the way that they're dividing this up. It really makes it feel like even more of an event. So I'm on board with it. Assassin's Creed, the new TV show Assassin's Creed that they're doing an adaptation for on Netflix, now has Zachary Hart on board. So if you guys are familiar with his work, he's going to be joining up. He was in Slow Horses recently. He's going to be a series regular on Assassin's Creed for Netflix. The previous leads cast for the show are Toby Wallace and Lola Pettigrew. And it's, of course, based on Ubisoft's best-selling video game franchise, which previously had a terrible movie adaptation, despite the fact that they had Marion Cotillard and, of course, Michael Fassbender. I can't believe they screwed that up so hard. Yeah, this should be an HBO show. You know what? It might be. If Netflix ends up buying HBO and Warner Brothers, eventually it might be an HBO show, technically. Who knows? Yeah, hopefully it is better than the movie, because, damn, that movie was so much potential wasted. But anyway, let's keep on rolling. Point Break also is getting a TV series in the works at AMC from David Kalstein and Alcon Entertainment. So there you go. Speaking of the Fast and Furious, a lot of people say, probably rightfully so, that the first movie was based on Point Break, essentially. Well, now, surf's up, baby, because Point Break, one of the most iconic movies in the 90s, is getting a TV treatment. It's not the first one from the 90s to do that. But AMC is developing a TV show based on the 1991 film starring Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves, Lori Petty, and Gary Busey. It comes to us from David Kalstein, as I mentioned, who recently worked on Amazon's Butterfly. Okay, interesting. It's being worked on by Alcon Television Group and AMC Studios. The network apparently won the project, according to Deadline, in a highly competitive situation. I also heard that this is going to take place 35 years after the events of the original film, and it's focused on a dangerous heist crew with ties to the ex-president's gang. All right, so I guess that means this is part of the same continuity. Like this, it's not like they're just redoing it as a TV show. It's like more like a sequel to the original. So maybe they can have cameos from Keanu Reeves. That'd be nice. Of course, Catherine Bigelow directed the original movie, one of her early successes. You let me know what you think about that. And speaking of TV shows, Pluribus has now become, according to Apple, their most watched show ever on Apple TV, surpassing Severance. I was surprised that it actually, is that popular. I've been watching it with Fiona, and I gotta say, it's a drag at times. I like the show. There's a lot the show, a lot that the show has to say, and a lot of questions that it raises. But it's, it's like, there's scenes in the show where I'm like, I literally am watching a character make coffee for the 5th time. I don't need that. Like, it's like if somebody goes and takes a shit, I don't need to sit with them and watch them stink it up. Like, just edit it down. Like, move it along a little bit fast. It's a bit of a slow burn, but there's enough to keep you captivated. So I'm not surprised that it's become the most watched show ever. Of course, it's created by and produced and showrun by Vince Gilligan, famously, the man behind the Breaking Bad franchise. Apple has already greenlit a second season. So what are your thoughts? Have you been watching it? Are you guys big fans? Rhea Seehorn, I think, does a great job. The latest episode just dropped days ago, this past Friday. So a new episode will drop in a couple of days. Yeah, and I think for me too, Severance, like season 2 especially, just really slow burn. Like Welcome to Derry is good. But like Severance and Pluribus, they need to pick shit up. It's like the first season of Invasion at Apple TV. Insanely slow paced. I was like ready to tap out on the show. Thankfully I didn't, because season 2 and season 3 pick things up in a big way, but holy shit, sometimes it gets slow. Yeah, like Severance could have literally been a great 6-episode miniseries. I agree with you. I absolutely do. Like, as opposed to what Slow Horses does, where they start a new story and wrap it up in 6 episodes, and like what they just did with Down Cemetery Road, which is by the same author, Mickey Herron, who wrote the books that Slow Horses is based on. Like, the British know what they're doing with these shows. Pluribus, come on, man. Pick your shit up. I'm just ready. Like, I'm ready at this point for them to like figure out a plan to actually reverse the effects of the alien virus now. But it just seems like every episode we find out, okay, so this is not the episode where that happens. Okay, so this is not the episode where that happens. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, please pick up the pace. But still, very popular. The most popular show on Apple TV ever. Go figure. Godzilla x Kong Supernova will reportedly feature the debut of Space Godzilla, everybody. It looks like what's been rumored for a long time. It's coming true, because according to the WGA website, which has seemingly confirmed the plans, we're gonna be seeing Space Godzilla in the upcoming movie. Because this is what it says on their website, on the WGA website. The listing for the movie was saying, based on the characters Godzilla and Space Godzilla, owned and created by Toho Co. Limited. And that's because it's part of David Callahan's, I think, his current credits, and Michael Lloyd Green, who are writing the upcoming movie. So the WGA had a listing, and it looks like they spoiled it for everybody. We're getting Space Godzilla, folks. We're getting Space Godzilla. Are you excited? Because it looks... I've never seen Space Godzilla, but you know what? Godzilla in space, I'll take it. I will take it. So... yeah, woohoo! Exactly. My reaction was exactly that. Enterprising remembers Space Godzilla. I'm gonna have to look it up. But I can't wait. That franchise jumped the shark and the everything else like a long time ago. It's just dumb good fun. Star Wars, speaking of dumb good fun, Fate of the Old Republic director says the game will launch before 2030. All right. It's an ambitious RPG game. Star Wars games haven't been good in a while. Do you guys want to see this, Fate of the Old Republic? Are you excited it's going to launch before 2030? We'll see. We'll see. Plenty of Star Wars things come and go without ever being launched at all. So it'd be nice. The complete Taylor Swift, the end of an era release schedule has been put out there. This is, of course, the documentary series about the Eras tour. It's the behind-the-scenes glimpse into the record-breaking tour that's Taylor Swift went on last year, which also became a movie. Of course, it's airing on Disney Plus. The schedule is now out. So if you guys have been watching, I think this is already airing, if I'm correct. All right, so here we go. So episode 1 and 2, yeah, they already came out December 12th, and episode 3 and 4 will be December 19th, with 5 and 6 on December 26th, so the week of Christmas. It will be available to stream 3 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 a.m. Pacific Time every Friday. So episodes 1 and 2 are already out. Episodes 3 and 4 come out this Friday. ABC did broadcast the first episode on Friday at 8 p.m. So yeah, if you haven't already, I guess go check it out if you are a Taylor Swift fan. Let me know what you thought about it. I saw some clips from it. It looks like, Taylor Swift was pretty emotional at times due to the events surrounding her tour. The tour was literally one of the most expansive tours for any, artist in modern history. So yeah, I'm sure it will do big numbers on Disney Plus. They're gonna need a bigger spacesuit for Kong. I'm sure they will. I am sure they will. Why do I know, right? 2030. Well, I guess they want to keep the hype around. They're like, this game is still happening. The Star Wars game is still happening. Yeah, the kid in me also loves the Old Republic games. I agree with you there, Enterprising. I do. Well, with that, I think that's the end of the quick hits. Most of you guys don't care about Taylor Swift, and that's completely fair. But hey, what did you think about the news part of the show? Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about it. We're not done yet because I figured, since we are doing an Also Curious show and we usually talk about DC on every show, why not we save some Supergirl news for today's Also Curious show? So that's what we're going to get into next. We got some Supergirl stuff to talk about, and with that gives me an excuse to put on that iconic DCU Daily intro one more time, or at least, well, maybe the one of two more times on the night. So let's get into it, shall we? It's time. It's time. It's DC time.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see chorus.
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts.
Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you, really, I'm doing sublime. I never wait in the stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all on the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto.
Hunka hunka.
Welcome on to another episode of DCU Daily. Honka honka indeed. Bane will break you. Time Force. Yeah, I got the Power Rangers reference. I actually like Time Force quite a bit. But hey, we're here to talk about DC. Not too much, but I did want to save this because we did a full DCU Daily show earlier, and we talked a lot about Lanterns. We talked about Man of Tomorrow with Brainiac and stuff. But of course, the next movie in line for DC is Supergirl. So let's get into some Supergirl conversation now. Of course, the teaser trailer dropped just days ago still, and we are still talking about it. We went into the in-depth frame-by-frame breakdown. We did the live reaction. A lot of people liked the trailer, but then some people were like, this just looks like Guardians of the Galaxy. So there have been some criticisms. It's not as universally beloved so far as the first Superman trailer was. But you know what? DC is looking to make a mark, much like they did with the Superman marketing campaign, and maybe they're looking to do another summer of Supergirl. And with that in mind, they tried to give Supergirl the biggest platform possible with the trailer launch. And that meant that Supergirl not only took over Times Square with billboards for a little while, but Supergirl also took over TikTok for a day, and what was essentially a first of its kind sort of a move. The DC Studios movie became the very first trailer ever to be served up to every TikTok user in the United States and 12 other territories. Let me go through this in a little more detail here in the Hollywood Reporter. The TikTok saw this as a test case that Hollywood studios can utilize to market its movies, given the social media platform's reach with younger users, which definitely is true. It could mean a remarkable amount of exposure for the film, which stars 25-year-old Millie Alcock, of course the Australian actress, as Kara Zor-El, the rougher around the edges cousin of Superman. Other countries where this took effect for Saturday, this was of course this past Saturday, are Canada, the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico, South Korea, and Australia. So of course Warner Brothers became the first studio to kind of test this out with TikTok, yeah, it basically meant that if, the Supergirl was interacting with the TikTok logo, you opened the app and you got the trailer. It was basically like a sponsored open to the app, like Netflix opens, you get the ta-dum, like when TikTok opens, like you get Supergirl. So that's in some ways it reminds me of Apple, forcing YouTube down our throats. Remember when that happened a while ago with that album that YouTube put out, which for me only had probably 2 good songs as a whole. But this is certainly good because TikTok, look, as far as from a content creation standpoint, from just a pure reach standpoint, TikTok's huge. The more people are on TikTok, and especially like they were saying in this article, younger folks are on TikTok. So you want to get this trailer out across to the younger audiences that will hopefully go see the movie next year. You do this, and certainly this is like they said, the first time any studio's ever done it. It's a good use case. I'd love to see what the results of this were like. I'm sure the numbers, if they were good, they will put them out publicly eventually, but good move on Warner Brothers marketing to do this, because they showed us with Superman that they can literally flood the marketplace across all social media with, you know, the summer of Superman. So this is a great way to do that with Supergirl, especially for a movie that will hopefully have an even younger skewing audience than what Superman brought in. So yeah, at least they're experimenting with new marketing strategies, and hopefully this worked out. You let me know, did you get the Supergirl trailer when you opened TikTok over the weekend? What did you think about it? Was it annoying for you because you were just trying to get to what you wanted to see, and why you actually opened the app, or were you just pleasantly surprised? Dark Elite Eric saying, LMAO ported my iTunes playlist in your YouTube music over the weekend, and that YouTube album was on it. Yes, exactly, dude. You had to delete it track by track. And I remember they didn't even let you delete it until years down the road. I still hate, on principle, even the good songs I refuse to listen to from YouTube, because I'm like, why force it down my throat? I think Apple really overestimated U2's popularity back then, because they were definitely past the peak of their prime. And I'm like, guys, I don't want a U2 album. It's like, you know, before, when Apple used to not let you delete apps, the Apple apps off the home screen, it felt like one of those things. Now they let you at least hide them or delete them entirely and re-download them. Yeah. But at least this was temporary, so it's not like it's there permanently. But it's a good marketing, like an activation is the term that they use. MTG saying Supergirl is going to be a blast type of movie you can only view a few times. Yeah, well, you can view a few times, as in like the rewatchability will be there. Hopefully it will be. Dark Elite Eric saying love the marketing for Superman, especially the World Tour. Yeah, and you know what? Hopefully they'll do the same thing for Supergirl. That's what I'm looking forward to. And we'll be here to talk all about it, literally 5 days a week, you know, until the movie comes out. Where is the leak of Doomsday, Neshan? We talked about it earlier in the show, so if you were popping in late, then be kind and rewind, because that was like the second thing we talked about on the show, second or third thing. So I spent like a good 15-20 minutes talking about it. Basically, we know that the first teaser for Doomsday is going to feature Steve Rogers. Footage is still out on the internet. You can go watch it if you look hard enough. And the second one is going to feature Thor praying to Odin, you know, his late father, to help extend his life, because it looks like he's not in good shape. People are also expecting, according to if rumors are to be believed, that the third one will feature Doctor Doom, and focus on his character. And then the fourth one probably will be a full-blown trailer for Avengers Doomsday. So we talked about it in much more detail earlier in the show, so go check that out. Yeah, Enterprising saying, well, we know South Park felt about how they felt about Bono. Yep, we do. Bane will break you, more positive about Supergirl, saying it's going to be great. We will see more of Krypton through her eyes. Liz actually sent me a video of behind the scenes of them filming, you know, the shots of Krypton that we saw in the trailer. I'm going to bring that in tomorrow into the show. It looked really neat. Let me see if I can actually find some of the images that I'll bring that into the show tomorrow. Basically, the shots of Krypton that we see, like, you know, where the people are in like those white costumes walking on Krypton before part of it gets destroyed as Argo City gets domed up into space. There's some behind the scenes footage of that has come out on the internet, and it looks pretty cool. It definitely does. Yeah, good point, Eric. Okay, so Enterprising saying, can't wait to see more of the cosmic side of DC, and that's what this is. Like what the Guardians of the Galaxy did. Again, I'm not trying to say this looks the same. Superficially it does, but two very different movies, I'm sure we'll find out. But I do like that this is going to be, you know, be our introduction to the cosmic side of the DCU very early. Like the MCU, like if you remember, the Guardians was like the 8th and 9th movie in the MCU. This is only the second one in the DCU, so I do like that they're getting to that cosmic side really quickly. Supergirl has the potential to be amazing and good fun. I am hopeful. Yeah, Enterprising, same here. Absolutely. Look, the trailer wasn't a home run, right? I think a lot of people will agree. While it was a good trailer, it could have been better. But like I said, it's hard to compare to Superman's first teaser trailer last year, because Superman's teaser trailer was a lot longer and it had different expectations because it was the very first DCU movie. This comes now in the wake of Superman, which has already, you know, set us up with a very successful DCU so far. We've got a lot more, you know, currently going on with DC as a whole. There's the Batman Part 2, all the rumors, you know, that keep coming and going about Brainiac from Man of Tomorrow and whatnot. The sequel, well, the supposed sequel, the half sequel to Superman, and of course Lanterns is coming out next year. We've talked about Clayface, which was filming up until a few weeks ago. So Supergirl, comes at a time when DC, the brand, is in a better position than Superman. But I still think the trailer could have been a little bit better. It's not a bad trailer by any means. I gave it an 8 out of 10. That's a pretty high score. John gave it a 7.5 out of 10, and John was not as infatuated by it. So overall, I think this is a good start to the marketing campaign. And clearly the fact that they gave it, prime ad space in Times Square, they put it on TikTok for a day, not just in the US, but in like 12 other countries. That's a big deal. Like, Warner Brothers is serious about this movie, and they're putting some big money behind it, so they're confident about it. Now, speaking of course, Supergirl, the actress behind the role, I just wanted to mention this was a nice quote from Millie Alcock talking about how she found out about the role, how she got the role. Nishan saying, "Yo, bro, I have the leak of the real trailer. I hacked it and we'll post it and send it to you." Oh, okay, that's great. Send it to me. I would love to see it if you have the real trailer. Send it to info@osocurious.com. If it's not AI generated, I guess we'll find out. But you're welcome to do that. The Supergirl trailer was an 8 out of 10. Yeah, and I agree with you, Enterprising. I absolutely agree with you. The Superman trailer definitely felt more dramatic, and the movie was. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it was just the music, the way that they used the whistling and the breathing. You could tell that the trailer was much more closely, watched over and cut by James Gunn because it was his movie. And you could tell like James Gunn really likes to get involved with that stuff. With Craig Gillespie being the man behind this movie, with Supergirl, they probably didn't have James Gunn hanging around, in the edit studio with the editors working on this as closely. So I think that's an example of just, two different directors having two different approaches to their movies, which is what's to be expected. So, that's completely fair. MTG is also saying, "I think due to the music, Supergirl felt more fun, but will be a dramatic movie." So sort of a reversal in terms of what the trailer felt like and how the movie is going to play out. Yeah, you know what? That's completely fair. And that is pretty, not crazy. I think you meant to say crazy thing. I totally hear you. Yeah. And that's actually a nice juxtaposition that you just did. I don't think I've seen anybody else say that so far. It's a good way to look at it. Or at least the first trailer, Emilia Alcock is adorable. It is pitch perfect casting, dark lead Eric, because that's what James Gunn keeps saying. It's like the best piece of casting he's ever done, and he was just heaping praise onto her at the press event this past Sunday as well. Not this Sunday, but the Sunday before that. And she would be a pretty comic book accurate Supergirl, at least going off of what we've seen so far. So talking about what you see on screen here, there was an interview on Screen Brief where she was asked about how she found out about getting the role of Supergirl. And Millie Alcock, I think this is from the Deadline article originally. Actually, no, this is from the press event that happened for Supergirl, the trailer released the Sunday before this past Sunday. And so they were on stage, and Millie Alcock was talking about how she found out that she got the job, saying, "I just got a text from you, James, and you just linked me the Deadline article." I remember this actually when they first announced this, that Deadline broke the story, and I guess James Gunn sent her the link to the article, and Millie Alcock saying, "That's how I found out. That was how I found out I got the job." And to that, James Gunn replied saying, "Wait, Millie, I tried calling you." And then Millie was like, "Yes, I didn't answer the call, and then you just sent me the article." which is like a very Gen Z way of describing the whole situation, because Gen Z folks are known for like not picking up their phone. So James Gunn, not being a Gen Zer, he was like, "Well, you didn't pick up the phone, so I just texted. I'll text you instead, and I sent you the link to the article, and instead of waiting to, I guess, call again." It's so, what is it with Kryptonians not answering their phones? I love the comments section here. Like, I think I read somebody was saying this is like the most Gen Z thing for Millie Alcock to do, and I guess you would say she is a Gen Zer because she's 25 years old, so she was born in the 21st century, so that counts. Yeah, Gen X versus Gen Z, you could see the two very different kind of creatives. I got a laugh out of this, and again, I think further goes to show you that the casting here is pretty good, at least so far. And James Gunn clearly is the one who made the casting choice. He talked about how like he had an idea for casting Millie Alcock right when he first discovered the Woman of Tomorrow comic, and he was like, you know who's gonna be great for this? That chick, that girl from. I'm paraphrasing here, by the way. That girl from House of the Dragon, like that, she would do a great job with this. Like, and of course, he still did an audition. Like, he still auditioned her, so it's not like he gave her the role. But, we have heard Millie Alcock talk about how, even though she felt pretty good about getting the job, she had butterflies in her stomach. It was one of the most anxiety filled auditions of her life, because it would have been the role of a lifetime for her young career. It's the biggest thing she's will have done up until this point in her career, despite the fact she's already been in the Game of Thrones franchise, and she's done some other work before that even. So yeah, James Gunn, true to his word, went through the casting process, but you could tell that he already had I guess maybe a certain bias toward casting her for the role. And yeah, you know what, perfect for the part, like Enterprising said. It's just fun to see. I think the best part about this whole interaction, I hope we get footage of this eventually, is that she's like, I found out through a text from you. A text message. Yeah, which is very Gen Z of her to do that. So anyway, well, that's it for now. That's all the DC news I got for you. We did a full DCU daily earlier on, so you guys are welcome to go check that out. And John was on for that show, and then we did Tier List Tuesday, honoring the memory legacy of Rob Reiner, doing ranking for his top 10 movies. I'm sorry, there's been an issue with our streaming software all day today, but for whatever reason, StreamYard's been glitching out a little bit. But basically, what I was saying is, like James Gunn mentioned, perfect casting so far for Supergirl. Good luck to Millie Alcock. I can't wait to see and hear more about that press event and all the quotes that came out of it. But up until then, everybody, that's all for tonight. The triple header. Thanks for joining us. If you stuck around the whole way through, especially thank you so much for that. And the DCU, we are rooting for you. Enterprising. Thank you, M2G, for tuning in live. Thank you to Dark Lead Eric, to Bane Will Break You, to Nashan, to who else was here live? Monique was here early. Stacy was here. Acres of Movies. Caleb, of course. Honka Honka. D. Cole. To anybody else who stopped in along the way. Hunter Iggy, of course. I think Anthony was here earlier as well. Nivian was in the comments quite a bit. Tony, I think he's gone to bed by now, but thank you for joining in. Figure Drawing, thank you for joining in, of course. To all of our members, I know there's not that many right now, but there is a membership on the channel. Filmologia, thank you for watching. And that all the money goes back right into the channel. It literally pays John and Liz's salary. Hosea, hello Hosea, hello, thank you for being part of the show. Well, thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, well, later today technically if you're watching us live, with a Wednesday edition of DCU Daily, and we'll have more news, the latest. Maybe we'll do a hot take debate. Wednesday tends to be the day to do that. I'll post about that on the channel community post section. Remember, we have a Tier List Tuesday and Fancast Friday poll up. The Tier List Tuesday poll is the same as last week, so if you already voted, great. If you want to change your vote, you can go and do that. If you haven't voted, go vote, because then that will be the topic for next week, our show before the Christmas holiday. And then of course, Fancast Friday will be the day after Christmas, so we'll be live at Fancast Friday with whichever topic you guys vote for. So go and do that in the meantime. And then if you didn't catch a DCU Daily, hit rewind, go check that out. And if you didn't catch Tier List Tuesday, that's on the channel now. Until then, I'll see you guys later. Thank you again for watching. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all the good stuff. And I appreciate you tagging along for the ride. We'll see you tomorrow.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you really I'm doing sublime. I never wait in a stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all on the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto.
Honka honka!
And thank you for watching.